Are there any questions?
Councilor Rudd, are we planning on holding a committee meeting on this item, but JSCB generally?
Well, if other folks are interested, otherwise I can meet with Suzanne individually.
Okay, that's fine with me. Are there other questions that folks would like to be present for a committee meeting?
I would like to join Councilor Rudd or do a committee meeting. I don't know how many people are interested, but I'd be curious to explore the JSCB stuff as well.
Okay, so then Councilor Rudd and I and Councilor Driscoll will get in touch with you about scheduling a meeting just with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 30. Thank you, Mary.
Mary Vossler, Budget Director. This item is for a contract with ProAct Inc., the city's pharmacy benefits manager. The city, the county, Oswego County, Onondaga County, and the city issued an RFP for these services, and was very competitive, and all of us, and including the city's RFP committee, chose ProAct Inc. for our active and retirees under age 65 population. This will be a one-year contract with 2 one-year renewals.
Were these services that had been provided prior to this contract? Are these services we're providing now?
Yes, the ProAct was the incumbent.
And what was the cost of the current, under the current contract versus the cost under this contract?
I'd have to get you those numbers because it's based on number of claims. We are estimating that next year our claims on a calendar year basis will be about $7.5 million, which was about a $900,000 to $1 million savings. But the claims we gave them were from 6 months ago, so don't know what the claims are going to be going forward.
But you're expecting that this contract is a savings from...
Yes, this is a savings for both Onondaga County, Oswego County, and the city.
Okay. Other questions on this item?
Not a question on this, and I think ProAct does an outstanding job, and they're very responsive, having dealt with them. But on the retirees portion, the Medicare portion, going over to the United Health,
Yep.
I was just speaking with Sherry, and that's why I bring this up. Right now they work with ProAct, right?
Correct.
This is all moving over to United Health,
Right.
correct? Is this going to be transparent? Is this going to be, I mean, we have people who have prescriptions that are sitting in the cash over there. Do they have to get doctors to make phone calls, or how is this going to occur?
You want to talk about that, Donna?
Donna Briscoe, personnel. We are working with ProAct to have those prescriptions automatically go over. We've already had a conference call with United Healthcare and ProAct, pulling them together so that we'll be able to send those reports over so we don't have to have new prescriptions for everyone. Okay.
Other questions on item 30?
The nice thing about the retiree with United Healthcare, it's one card now. Instead of having for them to carry 2 cards, they'll now carry 1 card.
Okay, thanks.
With regard to item 31, is this Ms. Briscoe?
Hi, Donna Briscoe, personnel.
Would you like to summarize what item 31 is?
So item 31 is for the Affordable Care Act. We have to track and report and submit to the IRS the 1094s and 1095s for health insurance. So that's what this is. The first year we learned that our systems couldn't handle that, so we did contract, yes, we have had CPI HR doing this for us, and they've tracked our hours and are doing our reporting for us, but we have to renew with them.
Can you tell us what other, why the waiver of the RFP?
The waiver of the RFP is because we have, well, let's just say the Affordable Care Act at the federal level has wavered on whether or not what reporting we have to have, and This year, we learned that we're still going to have to do this, and we are wanting to, when we get a new time and attendance system, we're hoping that we'll be able to manage that ourselves. And, I mean, the ideal is to be able to manage this ourselves. So we didn't want to send it out for a long term if we are going to be able to manage that ourselves.
Okay. I'm sorry, please.
Piggyback.
Please.
Okay, I want to piggyback on that because you know the RFP process has been like a thorn in my side. So let me ask you this. So you didn't have any heads up long term that this was going to have to come through? How long before you knew this?
How long before I knew that we were going to have to do this? I mean, yes, I honestly, so our contract ran out, or goes through October, so we did know sooner than that, but it's like to put that out for an RFP is, we would not be able to do that in the timing.
So what was the month spans, though? What was the time? You said October. Was it October that you knew this, or was it before October?
I would say July, August we knew it, but by the time we would have to put out an RFP for that.
And this is not you, and please don't take it this way, but from July to now, I believe, I don't know what the process is, that there was enough time to move that RFP through. So I'm just putting it out there because you can't keep coming dumping waivers on us and we're supposed to say, yeah, okay. That's not how it works.
Right. I get that. I do get that, and next, we will make sure that we're doing an RFP if we're continuing that next year.
Sure.
I wanted to say in the public setting what we talked about earlier today. It is clear that the waivering of RFP process is not the efficient way or the way that it should be done. Today, we had a conversation about investing in making sure we have a process by which there is better planning and by which there is a checks and balances before the request gets to the mayor. Some of it we felt was education on our part to our department heads about other options, particularly through the county, that make, who will do a lot of the procurement and legwork on our behalf, to ensure we're getting the best service and the best price. So those are underway. Frank is taking that under his wing, and that is going to be his responsibility going forward. We hear you loud and clear.
And I understand that, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, but my point is this. One of them got a call from Owen, and he said that there's one with the DOA or whatever it is, that it's timely, that it's like a 4-month period. Understand that. But when you're telling me from July to now, that's a problem for me. And I can only speak for me. So, okay.
You can speak for me, too.
I know we can, because you've expressed it.
And it is. And look, I get it. I think. Thank you. I think we're all in agreement that we need to do better. We could have a civil conversation about how we go about doing things in the future, because I do. It's been the bane of my existence being on this council that. We're looking at items that the project's already been done, and we're then voting on it, or we're told, well, this needs to go through right now, otherwise we're going to miss out on this opportunity. And obviously we don't want to, but then we don't get to do our due diligence as a legislative body. So it's very frustrating, and I'd love to have a conversation with the administration about this, maybe in a public setting rather than in the newspaper. So.
Yes, sir.
Are there other questions for Ms. Briscoe on this item? Then I call these items ready.
Thank you,
Madam President.
Thank you.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 32 through 52. Item 32 will be held for the public hearing on November 18th. Item 33, we just recently, this morning, had a committee meeting to discuss this matter. Did you want to speak on it further? Or?
No, I think your committee meeting
Yeah.
covered everything. Heather Lamondola, zoning administrator.
Okay. And so with this one, I know a few of my colleagues wanted to hear from the owner.
Okay.
So we'll move forward on Monday, but hopefully you guys can get in touch with him over the weekend.
Driscoll gave me his cell phone number, and I'm going to be reaching out to them.
Okay.
But again, yeah.
All right. So ready with a question mark. All right. So item 34.
Item 34 is a special permit for used motor vehicle sales and light-duty motor vehicle repair on Hiawatha Boulevard East and 2nd North Street.
I'd like to hold that item.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to hold item 34. Did you have any questions or comments?
Just waiting to hear from
Okay.
people.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And item 35.
Good afternoon, councilors. David Clifford with the Assessment Department. This is actually just asking the council to approve or authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with the EIC for the Open Pace C program. That was approved by the council earlier this year. This is the agreement as a result of that approval now that the state has signed off on the local law.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Thank you. All right. And items 36 through 52. Are we still on all on owner occupies?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have any updates?
There's a couple that are kind of highlighted out here in bold on particular items if it's easier to go through them individually.
Okay, we can. Wait a minute. Since these are owner occupied, I do want to encourage the district councilors to at least review them over the weekend, and then we can go forward on Monday. There you go. Are there any specific questions right now? If not, then what I like to do is I'm going to hold them until Monday and give my colleagues time to review some of these. And then if we have any questions, we can reach out to you individually, and then we'll move forward on Monday.
Great, thank you.
I wonder if it would be useful at this time for, I don't know if it's been done in a study session here, but if it would be useful for Michelle to outline the process from here. I know there's some misunderstanding among counselors about it once these items are among some of us. Once these items are voted on and are approved, what your process is from that point forward.
Yeah, so after that, there's a process that kind of has to take place where the actual kind of foreclosure happens that's taken care of by Corp Counsel, so they can speak to that in a little bit more detail. Then once the transfer is finally completed to the land bank, then they accept it. So on our end, we do have the option in some cases to place a hold on the property to kind of prevent it from going totally through Corp Counsel, and that's kind of done on a basis of like if there's active payments that are coming through. As you can see on several of the properties that are outlined there, that has been something that's been happening, but that's kind of just reaching out to us, and we figure that out kind of on that end.
And so that would be a case by case, and there's not necessarily guidelines for whether something is held after there's an approved vote or not.
No.
So there would have to be payments made, and even if there were payments being made, the item could still go through Corp Counsel and the foreclosure could be completed.
We typically, there needs to be some type of extenuating circumstance that necessitates it, so.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, thanks. Stephanie Pasquale, Commissioner for Neighborhood and Business Development. Just to add on to what Michelle said, we do look for third-party verification if they're, for example, if they have an accepted purchase offer and it just hasn't gotten to closing, if they have a commitment letter from a lender to clear up the taxes. I'm trying to think of some other scenarios. If they were getting a grant from New York State for the MAP program, we do look for a third party to sort of verify that there is a feasible strategy in order to hold the property.
So what you're saying then is if that third party verification existed, then you would hold it, like do an administrative hold?
We would request an administrative hold. Okay. Just additionally, at this stage of the process, and I know the attorneys can speak more to how foreclosure actually occurs. But there's a lot of notifications that still have to happen. There's title work that needs to be done. It's a minimum of 12 weeks post-vote, more likely 15 to 20, in which it takes to get to that point. A lot of these properties have very tangled title work. So even when we get the list of notifications, there's often another 30 days and another 30 days that those notices have to go through.
And if someone were to provide third-party verification at any point during that process, or up till when in that process, if it's a 12-week process, could they still provide that third-party verification?
Absolutely. We try to continue the conversation. We have a case list with owner-occupants with home headquarters and their counseling staff, and every month we go through, okay, what's happening with Stephanie Pasquale's case, any movement at all, any communication, and then we try to sort of put those categories together so that if they're, to figure out what the best strategy and path forward is for each of those clients.
Okay. Any more questions from Michelle or Stephanie?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm all set, thank you.
All right, I feel a need to address a recent article by Mr. Chris Baker, Syracuse.com. I can only qualify some of those statements as misguided, and so I'm going to clarify some things in case it's not clarified. This is about the topic of a raise for the council and the mayor and the auditor. My comment is not about what should or should not be done, but I'm most certainly going to comment about some of the statements that were made. For clarification, Mr. Baker, there is no charter responsibility for every single councilor to be at a committee meeting. The only obligation is on those members of that specific council, of that specific committee meeting, to be present. Now, considering the unfortunate or fortunate pay rate, a lot of the counselors still have to go to work or may have to go run their business to feed their families. It's an unfortunate reality. We knew this coming in, but it doesn't change the fact. So sometimes you may come to a committee meeting, and if there are members of that committee that are not there, it's probably because they're at work. The other thing, though, in regards to the need of the administration to repeat questions, some repeat questions happen because there's not an obligation for all counselors to be there except for those committee members. And so those who weren't there ask their questions for themselves, and sometimes that might be a repeat. Other times questions are asked. I'll give you an example. We may ask a question in leadership that we will come right back in the chamber and ask again because we want it on the public record. That is why you have repeat questions. But to make a statement to suggest that somehow this council is unorganized or incompetent in its performance is misguided, grossly misguided. The other thing, and I want to make this clear, I'm going to say with all due respect, though I think no respect was shown to this body, but there's nobody that's going to give us instruction on how to operate. If anything, we're going to give you a suggestion on understanding separation of powers. This council, with all due respect, is outside of your jurisdiction. And there is no telling us how we should function or operate. That determination is made by the body in this chamber. The article is very, very, I think, disrespectful and misguided, and oftentimes this council takes an unnecessary beating because of things that people may not really understand about our operation. I find it interesting that we're often penalized for following our charter rules. We're not making up rules on the fly. We follow the rules as they exist in the charter. But because, unfortunately, some people are unaware of what the charter states, we get raked over the coals. When really, especially for people who are supposed to be learned about this process, it might be necessary to read it so that you understand, but don't stop there. Read the municipal home rule as well so that you understand what jurisdiction this is in this chamber. We have a separation of power in government. The council is not a rubber stamp for anybody. We don't do things simply because you suggest it. We do it based on what our constituents want us to do. That has to be absolutely clear, because for some reason, it doesn't seem clear in this building as of late. The other thing I want to mention, if there's any concern about how we operate according to the rules, then we have a referendum process, that if somebody doesn't like the rule as a citizen, you could certainly petition to change that rule. That is how you change the rules. We don't arbitrarily change rules to satisfy opinions. I know that makes sense, but for some reason, and this is not the first time I've had this kind of statement, and other councils prior to this body has made these kind of statements about misguided statements or maybe not so clear, or I'm going to go on the record by saying not so honest statements. Because some of us were privy to conversations prior to the public discussion on the pay raise. And responses at that time were different than what we saw in the newspaper. If anything, we ask for your fairness when giving consideration to these kind of subject matters. You know, there's a lot of conversation about pay raises. $21,224 probably won't pay for anybody in here's basic necessities. It's not impractical for this body to say, well, maybe the body need a raise because the constituents demand more of their time. Some of these councilors put in 30, sometimes 40, sometimes 60-hour weeks, attending meetings after 7 and 8 o'clock at night, while everybody else is at home. I think there's some consideration that has to be given in that respect. But if anything, and I'm being purposefully redundant here, let's make sure we're clear, concise, and knowledgeable of the statements we make, and that we don't make statements that seem to target this body unfairly. I don't need no applause.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
Obviously, I